Alright everyone, today I'm going to go over the new Jackson Knarr FD. I'm going to show you how I have the kayak rigged, what I like, what I dislike about the kayak. I'll take it out on the water as well, and I'll give you some impressions on the water about some of the things I like and don't like about it. So we'll start with the front, work our way back. Up front you got the molded in handle. That's pretty nice. You don't have to worry about any handles snapping or breaking on you because it's molded in. They have that flat spot in the front where you can mount trolling motors or anything like that. I'm probably never going to actually do that, but if you're a trolling motor guy, that option is available for you. Front hatch, excuse me, front hatch. One thing I don't like, the Knarr does not come with a bin up front. A lot of the old Jacksons did come with a bin, and usually that's where I like to hold my batteries and stuff. This doesn't have it. Maybe they'll come out with one in the near future. Just kind of wish there was a bin, but there's not. Currently I have my fish finder temporarily mounted on the flex drive itself. Just testing that out. Not sure if I like it or not. And I have just the batteries just laying in the hole of the kayak right now. Moving back, this is where the transducer scupper is. I really like that. I like the location of the transducer because if you're going to be drop shotting or video game fishing, it's cool that you can kind of hang a bait off the side of your kayak right next to the transducer. So I really like that feature. Before, the transducer scupper was right underneath the seat, and sometimes I had a little bit of trouble video game fishing and not seeing my bait on the graph, and I think that's going to help with that. Alright, horizontal rod storage. That's another win for this boat in my book. You can carry up to 6 rods with the internal rod storage system. Back here you've got these little troughs that you can lay the butt of your rods in. So again, carrying up to 6. I don't really like that. As far as keeping them there while I'm fishing, I feel like it gets a little cramped inside of the kayak. I'm just a little bit worried that I'm going to break some of those rods eventually if I keep them like that. One solution I saw that some people are doing is they're sort of putting a strap on this tri-track over here and getting these off to the side to just improve the space inside of the kayak. So maybe I'll do that. I'm not sure, but I do like that option, especially for transporting the kayak. That's where I'll put a lot of my rods. So alright, let's talk about what I think is the #1 feature on this boat. It's the customization of it. You can really customize this boat any way you want and make it your own, and one of the reasons that you can do that is the tri-track here, and it's just a normal track that you see on every kayak, except it's got track on 3 sides. So you can mount things on the top, on the inside, on the outside, and that's a really cool feature. One of the cons with that, for example, this little cup holder came with the Jackson Knarr, and I had to modify it a little bit because this plastic was actually hitting the hole of the kayak right there. So I had to shave some plastic off of there, just ended up sanding it down in order to get it actually flush. Otherwise it was just sort of tilted off to the side. And you could still use it, but it was just one of those things, kind of an annoyance, if you will. Not a big deal, but you know, it's just one of those things you wish you didn't have to deal with. But once you get it shaved down, then everything seems to be working all right. One of the negatives of this boat that I noticed the other day when I took it out for the first time, I didn't even think of it. It did not come with carrying handles on the side of the boat. So when I got here, I was you know, kind of looking for a place to grip the kayak, and I couldn't really find a good spot. So I would sort of grab that tri-track, and it was kind of awkward. But so it doesn't come with carrying handles. I ended up purchasing these. These were like 15 bucks at a local store, and I mounted those on the tri-track. So again, the tri-track is really cool. I think the boat should come with those handles. Jackson does sell a pair of them on their website. I think they were like 40 bucks, but you can find cheaper pairs. Like I said, I got that at a local store for like 15. Another thing that I didn't like on previous Jackson kayaks, back here they would always have a lot of bungee where you could strap crates down. This kayak did not come with any bungee or any way to strap anything down. Again, you got the tri-track, which is a good spot to mount some bolts with some bungees and stuff like that. So the customization is still there. It's just it didn't come with the bungees like I'm used to with the old kayaks. So the tri-track itself seems to be really beefy, really sturdy. I track mounted one of my old Boondocks landing gears on here, and I've used it a couple times. I've got the kayak loaded down pretty good today. I don't see any flex in the tri-track whatsoever, so I do think it's beefy enough to hold a landing gear, and that just makes loading and unloading, getting on and off the water so much easier when you can track mount a landing gear like that. So we'll see if over time if it holds out. I don't like loading the kayak down and putting a lot of stress, because you know somebody's gonna watch this video, they're gonna be like, okay, you can track mount a landing gear, and they're gonna load the kayak down with motors and batteries and everything like that, and it's gonna break on you. I don't have the kayak too loaded down right now. I'm not worried about it. We'll see if over time if it holds up. Right now I'm pretty impressed with that tri-track and just how beefy it is. Let's talk about the steering a little bit, and then we'll get out on the water and I'll show you a little bit of that steering as well. Jackson's got their new steering system, which basically mimics everybody else's. You just turn the handle to the right to go right, you turn the handle to the left to go left, and you have it on both sides of the water. This has been a big issue that some people have had with this boat. Their steering was giving out on them, and I know that Jackson has already made some improvements to the steering, and we'll get out in the water and I'll show you my experience with the steering and see if they had fixed that already or if it still needs some improvement. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to get the kayak ready with that landing gear. You know, you wheel it down, get the wheels up and in the kayak, and you're good to go, ready to launch. I took this off of my Big Rig FD. This is actually the rod holder for the fly rod, and I mounted that on the tri-track, and I did this on the old Big Rig too, and I really like how I can just strap the wheels down with that bungee. Makes it really quick and easy. Okay, so again, I really like the tri-track a lot. I love that I can customize this boat to get everything out of the kayak and sort of on the outside. The kayak comes with this little tackle box, and that's a really nice feature as well. You can hold anything you want in there, and that's just one of those things where in the other kayak you would have something like that, maybe underneath the seat for storage, and now when you got the tri-track and you have the ability to mount it on the outside of the kayak, or at least outside of the hull, that just creates more space for you in the kayak, and I really covet my space in these things. I like feeling roomy. So again, the tri-track allows for that customization, and that's a big plus in my book. All right, let's talk about stability a little bit. So the Knarr is both stable and tippy at the same time. It kind of sounds like an oxymoron, but let me tell you what I mean. With the Big Rig, the hull was designed especially for stability, and you would basically punch through waves. With the Knarr FD, they designed the hull in a way where you would more cut through waves, and it makes it a lot faster and better to deal with waves, going through waves head on. But with that design, I think they lost a little bit of stability that they had with the Big Rig. So it's not that the kayak's not stable. I can stand up and I can fish, but it's pretty easy for me to rock this kayak side to side. It was a lot harder to get the Big Rig to rock side to side like that. I mean, you could make it rock side to side, don't get me wrong, but you really had to work at it with the Big Rig. With this, it feels a little bit tippy. If you do lean to one side of the kayak's going to tip a little bit, and you lean to this side of the kayak and it's going to tip that way a little bit. it's not that it feels like it's going to tip over, it's just that primary stability is not quite there the way that I personally like it. But again, that was how they designed the hull, because they wanted it to they designed it for speed and stability at the same time. So it's sort of a compromise. Yes, you get the speed out of it, which is important to people. You have the stability as well, which is important to people. So it's, you know, do you want speed and stability? Well, this kayak has both. But if you're not too concerned about speed, you know, and cutting through waves and maintaining your speed and all that, and you only care about stability, then the big rig is more stable than this boat. Okay, let's talk about the steering a little bit. This was one of the bigger issues that people have been having with the Knarr. I heard all kinds of stories of people taking it out for the first time, or, you know, a few trips in, and the steering would give out on them. They'd lose all control of their steering, or it just wasn't working as well. The other day I took it out, steering, no issues. First of all, as far as the steering goes, handle right there, handle right there. If you turn this handle left, this other handle goes left, and if you turn the handle right, the other handle goes right. So it's currently functioning as it was designed to do. Now, yesterday I got the kayak out, and the steering was perfect. It was a hot day yesterday. This morning I got the kayak out, and it was a little bit chilly outside. It was about 60 degrees when I left the house this morning, and that changed the steering a little bit. When I originally got out on the kayak this morning, I noticed that the steering was too loose. I couldn't steer the kayak as well as I was able to yesterday. Basically, the handles felt a little bit loose. I would turn this handle left, and the other handle would hardly turn left at all. So to combat that, Jackson, they have a bungee system. There's a bungee in the front of the kayak that connects to the steering wire, and that's just underneath the front hatch. You open the front hatch, you can bungee that wire down, and that tightens it down. There's the same option in the back of the kayak. This morning I bungeed the front wires. I did not touch the back ones at all, so only the front is bungeed, and that seemed to take care of the steering for me. So on a really cold day, maybe I'll have to mess with the bungee in the back too, but it's still a nice morning out here today, and that single bungee up in the front tightened up the steering, and it's good to go. So is that an issue or not? I would say yes and no. At the same time, you launch the kayak and you just want to get out and you want to get fishing. When I launched the kayak, I didn't really think about the bungee or anything like that. I just, you know, launched the kayak and I wanted to go fishing. I noticed that the steering was loose, so I had to beach the kayak and I had to get out, and I needed to attach that front bungee. That's a little bit of an annoyance for me. I wish it didn't have to be that way, and maybe Jackson would make some adjustments to their steering in the future where it doesn't have to be that way. But I also don't know if I can leave that front bungee attached from here on out and never have any issues, meaning once it gets hotter later in the day and the kayak, it expands, I don't know if the steering is going to be too tight or not. Time will tell with that. So it's possible that I only had to do that one time, and I'll be set from here on in the future. I can provide you guys with an update in a future video with how the steering goes. But outside of that, I haven't really had any issues with the steering. The steering reminds me of the Kusa FD a little bit. When that kayak first came out, the steering was a little bit wonky, but then Jackson made some fixes and they released a new steering system, and I haven't had any issues with that steering system ever since. So this kind of reminds me of that. I think they'll get the steering straightened out, and then it's not going to be any problem in the future. Okay, one of the final dislikes that I have on the boat, well, a couple things actually. It has to do with the seat and the seat placement. So first of all, you will notice that I have a little cam strap right here, and it connects this top bar with the lower one. That's because of Jackson's new high-low seating system. When the kayak, or when the seat is in the high position and you really start pedaling and really getting after it, I noticed that the seat, it really would rock back and forth a little bit. So I had to cinch those bars down to keep the seat from moving too much. Not a big deal. It's just, again, one of those annoyances that if you don't know about and you spend over $4 grand for a kayak and you get out on the water and that isn't to your liking, then I can understand how that would frustrate some people. So if you're interested in this kayak, just know that that's probably something that you're going to want to do as well, is cinch those two bars together so that you don't have that flex in the seat. The other thing that I want to talk about as far as the seat goes is the placement for shorter people. Now this seat is adjustable with these two Mighty Mount brackets here, so you can loose that and then the seat can slide forward and it can slide backwards. Well, if you're a shorter person and you naturally would have the seat you know, pushed up further, closer towards the drive, then you're going to be blocking the hatch a little bit. This hatch would open and close. I noticed that when I first got the kayak and I had the seat by default was up here over the hatch, and so you couldn't actually open the hatch with these bars here. It would just get in the way. So if you're a shorter person, that's going to be kind of annoying, that if you ever need to get access to the hatch, you know, to lift the prop up and clear it of weeds and everything like that, before you can do that, you're going to have to loosen those bolts, slide your seat back, and then lift it up in order to gain access. So that's one thing that I think is kind of a bummer. It doesn't bother me because I'm a taller person. I'm 6'2", and so the way that I have my seat positioned, that's never going to be an issue with me. But if you're a shorter person, then yeah, you're going to run into that issue. One other thing that I would like to mention about the steering is Jackson designed this kayak so there's a steering handle both on the left and the right side of the seat. So whichever hand you have available, or whichever hand you feel like steering with, you know, that's the hand that you would use. It's a good concept. In execution, sometimes it doesn't work out the way that you would like it to. Meaning, if my left hand is free and I decide that I want to go left and I, you know, pull the lever left and I'm traveling along, sometimes it feels like the steering gets hung up a little bit, and you'll actually need to grab the steering handle on the other side to free it up a little bit in order to get to steer all the way. And so it seems like sometimes the steering just gets caught up a little bit when you're trying to control the steering with just one hand. So that's a little bit of an annoyance again. Again, the system still works pretty well for the most part. I just noticed that every once in a while when I would want to do a one-hand steering, the steering would get caught up a little bit and I would have to, you know, go to the other side to free up that other handle. Okay, let's get after it with this kayak. Alright, there's 4 miles an hour. Now, this is kind of what I'm talking about. I'm pushing it a little bit, just a little bit. I can get up to 4 pretty easily. I can maintain high 3s. I can maintain 4 for a decent period of time, which is not something that I could do in the big rig. Now let's just go to a more comfortable pace. This is about my comfortable pedaling stroke, and I'm at 3.5. So is it fast? Yeah, it's kind of fast. It's just easier to maintain those top speeds compared to the big rig. The steering is much more responsive at higher speeds than my big rig was, that's for sure. I'm going 3 and I'm turning pretty tightly right now, and that's pretty impressive compared to the big rig. One thing that you may notice when I'm pedaling a little bit harder, if you look at that flex drive, it's wobbling a little bit. So now it's to the right, to the left, to the right, to the left. And that's just one of those things that I noticed because I didn't have that in my big rig. And I don't think it's going to be an issue. I just wonder if it's going to stress the hull out. But we'll see what happens over time. I don't think it's going to be an issue. But if it does become an issue, I'll let you guys know. All right, let's talk about one last thing that I don't like about the boat. When I have it in this position, the shape of the boat, it has so much curve right here that when I lift up the back, the kayak has a tendency to roll over. So again, that's just due to the hull design. Again, the way they designed it in order to gain some speed, cut through the waves. So it's not that it's an issue, it's just that when I lift up this back end and I slide it into the truck, I need to be kind of quick about it, because you know, if you linger too long, it's going to flip on its side and you could potentially tip the kayak all the way over, maybe even upside down. So let's see what happens. Again, you could probably even tell when I did that, the kayak, it really started to roll, so I had to keep pushing it in order to get it to the flat spot in the hole before I could push it all the way up. Let's do it one more time. And it's kind of the same issue when you pull it out. As you pull it out, once you hit that curve spot, it really starts to roll on you. And in fact, that first time that I did that, it rolled and kind of went off to the side of the truck bed so much that now I've got to move it back into original position. So again, we'll angle this and I'll lift it up and you'll kind of see what I mean. Lift it up, it starts to spin, so you got to push it in there and be quick about it. So again, it's one of those things. It's not really an issue with the kayak itself, just for the way that I fish, the way that I load and unload my kayak. That's going to be an annoying part, I think. Something I'll have to get used to. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for my review of the Jackson Knarr FD. I just want to let you guys know that I am on the Jackson team, so I may be a little bit biased towards this boat, but I wanted to be honest as possible. As I did this review, I felt like I may have been overly critical of the boat, but I wanted to be as honest as possible. I want you guys to know what you're in store for with this kayak. I don't want to be that classic guy that, you know, is on a pro staff and never says anything negative about the products that they work with. There are some negatives to this boat, and I try to point as many of those out to you as possible. This was only my second trip out on the kayak, so it's possible that I missed some things as well, and time will tell with that. But I don't want you guys to spend over $4 grand for this kayak based off my review of, you know, nothing but positive things. There are some quirks to this boat. There's some things that I don't like about the boat. There's a lot of things that I do like about. That being said, this is going to be my new tournament boat. After my first trip on the water, I was kind of undecisive over whether or not I would stick in the big rig or whether or not I would jump into the Knarr. And I think the customization options and just laying out everything the way that I like it laid out, that's going to make me lean more towards the Knarr. The stability in the big rig, that was one of the main things that was having me lean towards the big rig. I also liked the horizontal rod storage on the big rig a little bit more than the Knarr, simply because they were on the sort of the outside of the hull. So I still felt like I had a lot of room in the big rig while keeping that horizontal rod storage. With the Knarr, having that horizontal rod storage inside of the hull with you, I don't think that I can get used to that, so I'll probably just use that while transporting, and then put the poles up vertically behind me, which that's not a big deal to me. The fact that I can customize that kayak to the point where I have almost nothing inside of the hull with me and I have all that room, that's a big plus for me. So I think that's what's kind of the difference between sticking in the big rig or switching over to the Knarr, and I'm gonna do the Knarr FD, I believe. So I hope that you guys felt like this was an honest review of the kayak. If you have any questions, let me know and I'll be happy to answer them. Thanks again, everybody, for watching the video. And until next time, we'll catch you later.